The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session on remotely invigilated exams in September. You all know me as Tahir Kapasi. I'm also joined on this webinar with my colleague who's sitting right in the UK, and I'm sitting here in the ACCA Middle East Dubai offices. Alex and I are going to be, sort of co-presenting the webinar to you today, and we're going to be talking to you about remotely invigilated exams. Now, before we proceed any further, I would just like to sort of check or put in a caveat that this particular webinar is only meant for students in Kuwait and students in Oman, and particularly those that have registered, to sit a center-based exams in September in Kuwait or Oman. If you are not within one of these criteria or categories, then being on the webinar would be good for you from an information perspective, but not very much relevant. Everything that we talk about, all the bits of information that we share on the webinar, on the session today, may not be very relevant to you going forward in the future. This is solely for the purpose of all the students that are doing the exams in September, that had previously selected to sit these exams as center-based exams either in Kuwait or in Oman. So without further ado, let's get cracking with the session. We've got an hour. I'm just going to quickly run through some of the housekeeping sort of rules here. We will try and stick to an hour session. It may extend slightly depending on how many questions you've got at the end. The plan is for us to be able to really explain how remotely invigilated exams will work, just give you an insight, an overview of the process, and talk through different sort of things, whether it is things like how do you book your remote exam sessions, what can you expect on the day of the exam, how do you prepare, particularly for those that are on the strategic professional levels, and we leave a good chunk of time towards the end for question and answers, which I'm sure a lot of you will have loads of them. You've got the opportunity to sort of, flag your questions right away or while we're presenting during the session. There's a dedicated questions panel on the top left side of your screen. You can type away your questions there. Towards the end, Alex and I will, do our best to try and answer as many questions as we possibly can to the best of our knowledge. Now, we've been hit with something very unprecedented, and I don't want to emphasize too much on this, but what happened basically because of the entire pandemic situation is the entire world has gone haywire. There's been lots of ups and downs happening, and every individual, every organization, corporate stance, everyone's trying to figure out, what's the new normal, how do we work this out. There's disruptions to businesses. Likewise, we are no exception. You've already experienced some of these disruptions with your learning partners in your journey while preparing for the exams. As a professional qualifications body, our mission has been to ensure we make these exams available for you. I know we had a setback in June where we've had to cancel the examinations in June, and that was keeping in mind the health and safety of our students as the utmost priority. We've been in discussions with regulatory bodies, authorities, our exam partners in various countries globally, and we've spoken to them. We've taken on board the suggestions, the opinions that they've come up with. Looking at the holistic view of everything, we've had to take some decisions on how what's going to happen with exams in the Middle East market. As of now, as we speak, the situation remains unchanged. We've had to take the decision of, sort of canceling center-based exams in Oman and in Kuwait. Kuwait, we sort of took a decision quite early on. So if you're someone who, is based in Kuwait or had booked to sit an exam in Kuwait, we had spotted quite early on, the authorities and our exam partners had indicated early on to us that there's absolutely no way we'd be able to run center-based exam given the current scenario. And, we had to take the decision of switching these exams to remotely invigilated exams. The same happened in Oman, where, we had our finger on the pulse. We were constantly checking. We were in conversation with relevant bodies, and pretty much around your standard entry cutoff date, we had to sort of take the decision where we thought, well, it seems very highly unlikely that we'll be able to offer center-based exams to our students in Oman as well. And therefore, let's invoke the contingency, which is let's sort of introduce remotely invigilated exams. Again, priorities are your safety, your security, as well as ensuring that, we give you the opportunity to progress through your ACCA qualifications journey, through your exams journey, and basically, continue with, being able to have minimum disruptions to your progression plans. Remotely invigilated exams are not extremely different. There is not a huge impact for anybody who's doing their applied skill exam. So for any students that are on the applied skills, which is your performance management, taxation, financial reporting, audit, and your financial management exams, there's no major difference except the fact that you do a few extra bits in terms of your exam logistics, and you sit the exam at the comfort of your home. You've already been introduced to computer-based exams. You're familiar with how these exams work, what the platforms are like, etc. The ones that are or were planning on doing the strategic professional level exams, and I understand this is quite a sudden change. The transition from paper-based exams into computer-based exams is going to be a little bit challenging. I wouldn't say extremely challenging, but yes, you're going to have to put in some time, practicing your exam strategy, familiarizing with the computer-based platform, and we do, sort of support you with that. There's going to be a session that we will be running in the coming weeks, where, possibly next week, where we take you through different ways of preparing this. There's a section today on that, but do not worry. The whole thing I'm trying to say is, it's not a major change. We are not changing any learning outcomes. The only thing that is changing is the way you do your exams. So instead of writing your answers on a piece of paper, you're just going to be typing it on a computer, right? So with all of that, let's start off with with today's session, and let me give you a slight overview. So this is basically the markets that we've so far decided to invoke contingency. And again, this is based on our discussions globally with our partners. Are these out of the listed markets? You can see, within the region, we've got the likes of India, Pakistan, and Middle East, specifically Kuwait and Oman, that are going ahead with remotely invigilated exams. And when we say remotely invigilated exams, it means all our exams, whether they are applied skills or whether they're strategic professional, all of them will be remotely invigilated. So with strategic professional, if we are bringing in the remote invigilation option, it means we are going to have to convert these exams from being paper-based exams to being computer-based exams, which means we are just accelerating our plans of introducing strategic professional as CBE. This was inevitable. This was going to come. We had originally in the plans of introducing strategic professional and converting them to CBE in June next year. But because of the unique situation we are in, we've just had to push the pedal a bit on this introduction in Kuwait and Oman. Again, for the benefit of you, again, for the benefit of all our students, just to ensure that we are giving students the opportunity to sit the exam. Now, here's a picture which, basically, this is not a bunch of students sitting exams, but rather it's a center where, these are all invigilators, basically, who are, sort of sitting and invigilating a number of students on their screen. So with remotely invigilated exams, again, the priority for us is the security, the rigor of the exams, and we try and make sure that the integrity of the exams are all maintained. Nothing changes majorly. Instead of somebody walking around in an exam hall, and supervising, invigilating you, what you're doing and what's happening in the exact exam room. You will instead just be sitting in front of a computer with a camera on top or a laptop with your webcam, etc. And you will have somebody sitting in some part of the world watching you constantly, sort of seeing your activity, keeping an eye on you, and you will be typing away your exam. You will be engrossed. You won't even notice, what's happening if someone's watching you. But the systems that we've deployed are again on the basis of, the security, the integrity of the exams. We've deployed the best of providers for this. The invigilation softwares are going to be so intelligent. They're going to be they're going to be assisted by AI. So any irregularity in your behavior, any additional sounds in the background, any sort of facial expressions, any change in your eyeballs and things like that, the system will pick up, and you will hear from your invigilator, questions. They'll try and contact you. They'll say, what is happening. They will have the opportunity to intervene. Your screen is basically going to be locked, so you won't be able to do anything else apart from just having your exam software on your screen. So you won't be able to switch between one software to another when you launch your remotely invigilated exams. These are all very high tech, very secured platforms. We will be giving out more information on all of this in the next upcoming slides. Now, the September exams, will be available as remotely, invigilated exams for students who have basically made an existing exam center booking for the ACCA qualification for the September sitting, and and sort of done your bookings before the standard or the late entry deadlines. If you've not booked for a center-based exam within the exam entry deadlines, then you will not be invited to book an exam. So it's not like students that have not done this have got another opportunity to book their exams. No, only students that have booked their exams as center-based exams, or had expressed an interest and registered to sit a center-based exam in Kuwait and Oman, will be invited to sort of rebook their exams as remotely invigilated exams. It is your responsibility, before you rebook your remotely invigilated exams, it is the student's responsibility to make sure that you have firstly the necessary equipment that meets the minimum technical specification and which also passes the system test. And we will look at the two of these in the next upcoming slide. In fact, I'll do an actual run through of some of these as well, so you know what I'm talking about. But it is very important for you to make sure that your computer, your environment meets the minimum technical specifications, and all of these details are on ACCA's website, and I'll show you where you can find these details, as well as you need to make sure that your laptop or your computer has run the system test. There is a built-in testing platform. You will need to run that test to make sure that your computer has got all the requirement sort of bells and whistles to make sure that you can run these exams successfully on the day of the exam. You need to have access to a quiet and private location on the day of the exam. You can't sort of sit somewhere. If you're a working professional, you cannot expect to be sitting in sort of a cubicle and do your exam. You will have to have an enclosed room where there's nobody who can walk in, can disturb you, because it has to still be the exam environment has to be maintained. Another important thing is that you will need to have strong and stable internet connection on the day. Any disruptions with internet connection will cause issues with your actual exam. So you will, as students, it's your responsibility to make sure that you've checked off these boxes before you go ahead with booking your remotely invigilated exams. Now, some of you, especially the ones that are in Kuwait, already have received emails. Your accounts have already been credited with your exam fees. Your exam center-based exams have been cancelled, and you've already been invited to sort of rebook your exams as remotely invigilated exams. It's a slightly lengthier process. We will be going through that process quickly right now as well today on our session, and we'll give you an insight on a little bit of support for those in the students in Oman. Expect to receive the second email. You've already received your first set of email that says we've had to cancel center-based exam. We are introducing remotely invigilated exams. You will receive a second email from ACCA in the UK confirming how you can proceed with booking your remotely invigilated exams, and it will also basically tell you that your accounts have been credited with the fees back. When you go into your account, you'll be able to rebook your remotely invigilated exam. So keep checking your emails actively, because we're on a very tight deadline. The email will mention the cutoff date for rebooking your exam, and I will re-emphasize on the word rebooking, because you will need to rebook your exams. Essentially, what will happen is we will cancel your center-based exam entries. You will need to log into your MyACCS, go back into your exam planner, and rebook the same exam to sit it as remotely invigilated exam. And for that, you've only got the time up to 7th of August. So the timeline is quite tight. I can understand the students in Oman, are probably thinking we're on 5th August right now, but you've got 2 more days to book your exams. You will get the email which will confirm that your accounts have been credited back, and you can proceed with booking your remotely invigilated exams. Mind you, only those that have booked center-based exams will again be receiving all of these emails. This is a snapshot of your exam timetable, and because we will be hosting remotely invigilated exams globally, we've had to actually split the exams over 2 weeks. If you notice, the first week, which was the original week of the exam in September, we will be running both your applied skill as well as your strategic professional exams parallelly as per schedule. Nothing changes on that. The only addition is your week 2 underneath, which is an additional week of exams. Again, we are only going to be offering your applied skills exams here in that week, and we won't be offering any strategic professional exams. So you've got some flexibility in terms of when you can sit your exams. Because these exams are computer-based exams, they are going to be dynamic. Every question, every exam is going to be different, from a day-to-day basis. So you've not got to worry about all of this, but do sort of pay attention to this information. We've had to split in order to accommodate all our students, in various markets where we have to bring in or introduce remotely invigilated exams. In order to accommodate the different risk requests, we've had to split these exams over 2 weeks. This exam timetable is also available on the website, and I'll show you. In fact, Alex might already be sharing, throwing off some of these links where you can find all of these information. We will have all of this information available on the follow-up email that you get after the session today as well, along with the recording. So, do not worry tremendously about it, but do pay attention to these, these schedules for your exams. Now, let's talk about what are the things that you need to sort of be mindful before you book for your remotely invigilated exams. We've already given you an overview of what to expect. You've got an understanding of the timelines. You've got an understanding of the cutoff. 7th of August. Remember, 7th is a really important day. I encourage all of you to sort of go in and rebook your exams, because progression is quite important. You need to keep moving on. You've already lost one opportunity of sitting in exams. It could have been passing 1 or 2 exams in June. Now you've had a significant gap because of the exam cancellation in June. It is up to you now to make up for that loss already. So don't leave the opportunity, or don't lose the opportunity of sitting an exam in September. Go ahead, make your exam booking, sit your exams as remotely invigilated exams. It's not a massive change, honestly. Even if you were doing your strategic professional exams, we will work with you, we will support you, we will work with your learning partners. Your learning partners will work with you in preparing you. We've still got 4 weeks from now until the actual day of exam. If you followed your study plan, if you followed everything that you were being told and guided on, then you're pretty much on track, and there's nothing lost still. So let's start looking into what do you have to expect. Like I said, equipment checks is absolutely necessary. You need to sort of you need to be responsible for this. You need to take responsibility for this. You need to check that your system meets the minimum criteria. The check is carried out via basically our testing partner, and will probably confirm the internet speed, your webcam capabilities, your microphone performance, and all of that. It is important that you have access to a webcam, a microphone on the actual day of the exam, because that's how your invigilators will probably talk to you, as well as be able to pick up any unusual sounds, etc., in your exam environment. If you do not have any of these available, then your system will not be acceptable for the exam performance. So you may possibly be able to book your exams, but if your equipment checks is not fully valid, then you won't be able to sit the exam, and what will happen eventually is you will end up losing that money. So equipment check is absolutely crucial, very, very important. You need to go through the technical checks also. You will need to ensure that you meet the minimum technical specifications. There's things like how much memory should be available on your computer or your laptop, what it should be, your internet speed, download speed, upload speed, blah blah, etc. So there's a couple of different things, and there's a detailed technical tech spec sheet on the ACCA's webpage that will give you all of this information. We will just sort of highlight a few things here. So in terms of your hardware requirements, again, your exam must be run on a desktop or PC or a full-size laptop. People have smaller size laptops sometimes. I know people that prefer to have like 10-inch, 11-inch screens. But again, we would not recommend that. Honestly, I would personally not recommend that for an exam experience. The bigger the screen, the better it is. Just in the sense of being able to manage your screen space, being able to read, things legibly, properly, and when you type up your answers, it's going to be really helpful. So ideally, try and use a full-size desktop or a full-size laptop. You can use Macs as well, so the exams will be available on Apple devices also, as long as your devices have a webcam and have a microphone facility. Tablets are also sort of you could do your exams on tablets as long as it has a physical detachable keyboard and it meets the operating system requirements mentioned. Again, this is a possibility, but I would really not recommend students sitting exams on a tablet, because again, in terms of the entire exam experience and the user friendliness, you can't compare a tablet to a full-size desktop or a full-size laptop. So ideally, try and prefer to use a full-size laptop or a desktop if you possibly can. If you're using a laptop, you need to make sure that your laptop is permanently connected to a power supply, and you just don't rely on the battery of the laptop alone, because if you tend to lose power on your laptop, or your laptop turns off for any reason, or the battery drains out, there's chances that you could lose your exam potentially. In terms of memory, you should have a minimum of 4 GB RAM in your software, which is pretty much normal, which is the norm these days. I don't recollect anybody having anything lower spec than this, so none of you, I would imagine, would have an issue with this. Software specifications, again, Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer 11 and above, Microsoft Edge are all supported browsers. You need to ensure that you've installed the OnView installation, the extension is installed. This will all again be a part of your test when you do your system test. This will be prompted to you. Windows 8.1 or 10 and 10, as well as on your Mac iOS 10.13 and above, excluding the beta version, are supported. You need to have the rights to install softwares on your device. So for example, when I say this, sometimes if you're working, or when I used to work with PwC, we were given laptops, and on our laptops we could not download any external softwares. We didn't have permission to do, we didn't have basically any rights because of the security and certain reasons. We couldn't even put USB sticks into our laptops. So you need to make sure, if you are using any such laptop, or if you are using your work PC or your work laptop, you need to make sure that you have the rights on that PC to install external softwares, because this is going to be a software that you'll need to sort of download on the day of the exam. The remote invigilation is ideally a software that you'll have to download. And another important point here is the authenticity of your Windows. So the Windows that you use need to be licensed, and it's quite important. If it's not a license, or if it's not a genuinely licensed window, then your exams will not be able to run, and you will have issues around being able to run your exams. So there'll be technical problems. So remember, it's very important that the the windows that you'll be using on the day of the exam has to be authentic, has to be licensed windows. Internet connection and bandwidth. In terms of your internet connection and bandwidth, again, your home broadband, if you're using your home broadband or Wi-Fi connection, you need to make sure that it is quite stable, reliable, and free from interruptions. We would recommend that you connect to your laptop or your PC with a wired connection, something like this, typically a LAN connection, which is much more stable compared to a wireless connection. So use a LAN connection if you possibly can. Um, Try and avoid anybody else using your Wi-Fi or your internet connection during the time that you're doing, just to ensure that you're getting the best sort of support, you're getting the bandwidth, you're getting the kind of speed and network connection that you should, to ensure that your exam can run smoothly. Hotspots and tethering are prohibited, so you can't sort of we can use mobiles and all of that to get tethering, and we can connect your laptop, but you won't, we don't recommend ideally using hotspots, especially via mobile, because of the stability issues. Networks run out, or somebody tries to call you, your internet connection gets disrupted, which means your exam will get disrupted, and there might be technical issues, and there's always stability issues with hotspot connections and tethering network. So ideally try and use a wired connection. If not wired, if you're using a Wi-Fi wireless connection, make sure that your internet is quite stable and strong. Recommended, minimum speeds are 3 Mbps download and 2 Mbps upload, which I think in this part of the world, in this region, is a very, very, very normal thing. We've got home internet with 50 Mbps speeds levels now, so this shouldn't be. But again, for you, it will be good to check with your internet provider if your internet connections meet up these kind of requirements. On the side of your equipment check, you must carry out the system test by going to the exam partner of Pearson VUE's website. These links are also embedded onto the ACCA's website, and I'll show you after a couple of slides where you can find these on ACCA's website, and how do you run the system check and the equipment checks, etc. Should you experience any sort of technical issues, please use the chat feature to get support from Pearson VUE. So there is going to be an existing active chat box which you will be able to use, and your invigilator will be able to use to sort of chat with you, have conversations with you, start your exam, stop your exam, etc. So they will have control of your screen till the time they start your exam, and you can actually run through your exam, and then they'll have a lot of functionality available to you, where the test asks you to take a photo of the workspace or the place. Please ensure you take a photo of the actual workspace where you will be taking an exam. So when you're doing your system or equipment check, it is recommended that you do it exactly where you will be sitting and doing your exam. So it could be your own room, it could be a room where you have a desk and a table or something of that sort, and you can sit comfortably in your own quiet private space, and you be able to take the exam, because your system check will capture your environment and everything as well. Only run the system test, do not enter or begin an exam. And I'll talk a little bit more about this when we see the system test and how the interface basically looks. So yep, that's it. Let me switch this to actually, let me shut all of these and let me take you through the entire process. So this is the ACCA's website, www.accaglobal.com. You come here under the students tab, we've got this exams tab. So you click here on the exams tab, and here's where you will find information about this September remote session exams. You click on this link, and you will have everything you need to know about the September 2020 remote exam sessions. Now, this is where you'll be given the list of what countries are going into remote invigilation. That's the link to your timetable, which is what I was talking to you about when we had that one particular slide up. Here are the timetables, and these are the 2 different weeks I was referring to earlier. It is going to give you a step-by-step, checklist of things that you need to do. Equipment checks. Again, here's the link to complete your system checks. This is the link that takes you to your minimum technical specification. So let's click on this link and let's quickly have a look at the sheet. I'm not going to read this entire document word by word. It's a long, exhaustive document, but it gives you all the information around, the operating system, your firewall, what are the requirements, what policy dictates, your device, the memory, how your display should be, what sort of internet browser, the internet connection, webcam, your microphone, browser settings, power source, all of it is covered here. So again, this is where you will find all your information. You need to go into this bit. You need to verify that your system can, actually accommodate these requests, and you can actually successfully sit and do your exam. If you don't do all of these, and if you end up booking your exam on the day of the exam, you will have problems with being able to run the exam, and what will happen eventually is you won't be able to sit your exam. So please make sure that you have gone and done the, you've gone through the technical specifications, and then you've run your system checks. This is where you have how to book your remote exam session. We will be coming on to this bit slightly later on our presentation today, but let's for now look at when you run the complete test system, what happens. So this should ideally take you into another page where you've got the option of access the system test. Now, it's important for you to be able to read all of this information before you run this test. And again, remember, run this test where you are going to be taking your exam. So in the actual physical location where you'll be sitting and taking the exam, run it where on the system that you're going to be using. So if you're going to be using your personal laptop or your personal desktop or PC, so run this test when and on the actual system that you will be using. So you click on access the test system, and you'll see it will automatically take you onto Pearson VUE's platform. Our exams are being run on Pearson VUE platform, and again, on view here is the remote sort of invigilation software of Pearson VUE. On this screen, you will see two options. One being run the system test, and second being begin the exam. You don't need to click this. Nothing's going to happen if you click this bit here. When you do your system test, you need to click on test my system. When you click here, this will take you to a next page where you get your access code. So this is your temporary access code for you to be able to download the actual exam software. You will need to check this box first to confirm that you are using the computer and the location where you will be doing the testing on the day of the exam. Once you've done that, you copy these access code automatically. Ideally, it should populate this automatically, and you hit download. Now, I won't be able to hit download here right now, because if I do that, it's going to block my entire system, and there is a chance that I might be disconnected from the webinar also, because when you download this remote invigilation platform, it's going to download a trial or a test version just to make sure your system is up to date. Unfortunately, I wish I could have done this and shown it to you, but all you have to do is download. Once you click download, there's going to be something that pops up here, or it's going to start running. You run the software, and it will take you into a test system where basically all you will see is Pearson VUE running a test on your microphone, on your internet speed, as well as your webcam. When you're running these tests, you need to make sure that your webcam is switched on and powered, basically. So you shouldn't have anything blocking your webcam, because it'll take a picture. It'll take a picture of you, and it'll show you how your room sort of is seen, etc. And that will confirm whether your system meets the minimum system check requirements. So when all of the tests are done, you click next. It'll give you an option where you can do a test run of an exam. So when you click next, they'll give you a dummy examination basically, and it'll say, well, it'll give you one or two questions, and you do that one or two questions, you click finish, end exam, and all of that. So it'll give you a snapshot of basically what you can expect. But this is how you ideally run your system tests and all of that. And that's what you'll be able to see when you actually do the system check. So it's quite crucial for you to be able to do this before you rebook your exam. So ideally, you should already start doing this today or early tomorrow to make sure that your system is definitely going to meet the minimum requirements. If not, then you can make additional arrangements. You've got enough time to make sure you can make those arrangements and you can get access to a particular system. I would just like to take a natural pause here for a bit before we move on to our next session around, booking a remote session. And I'd like to check with Alex if there are any questions or if he's got anything to add.
Thank you, Ty. No, I've been relatively busy, in fact, very busy on the questions. So thank you for everyone who's been coming in and sending questions. I'm doing my best to get back to you on those as we go along. I appreciate we've got a lot of people in attendance to this. Obviously, it's a very important webinar for us to ensure that you're as informed as possible. Myself and Ty will be talking through some of the questions that you've been asked. So I have addressed those that we will be coming to at a later stage. But if we don't get to you, please reach out to us as well. We'll provide our contact details later. But Ty, nothing to add at this stage, but keep the questions coming in, everyone, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. Just before we move on, Alex, and again, pardon me, was this the bit where I hand over to you, or is it the section after this? Pardon me.
You can do this bit, Tahir, and then I'll do the next bit, I believe. Bear with me one.
Brilliant. Okay. So here's where we look at how you actually book your remote session exam, and it's not a mammoth of a task again. It's quite simple, very intuitive, pretty much straightforward, but it does involve some additional steps compared to what you would have normally experienced when you book your normal center-based exams. Now on your remote, so when you're rebooking, like I said earlier, the process is our head office, the teams, the exam ops teams will basically work on crediting your accounts back with your exam fees and canceling your center-based exam bookings. Once they've done that, they'll give you an email. They'll shoot an email out saying, well, your center-based exams have been canceled, and here's how you can rebook your remotely invigilated exams. Once you receive that email, ideally you could either follow the links on that particular email, which will take you to your exam planner, or you log into your MyACCA account and you go into your exam planner and you'll be able to rebook your remotely invigilated exams. Again, mind you, these will only be sent to students that are based in markets that are impacted. In the Middle East, these will be Oman and Kuwait. So students that had originally registered to sit an exam in September in Oman and Kuwait will be receiving these emails, and students that had actually booked will be receiving these emails. So if you meet these criteria, you will be receiving an email from our side and telling you basically that your accounts have been credited and you can go in and rebook your remotely invigilated exams. Now, there's a lot of options available to you in terms of guidance, in terms of support, in terms of how you can basically run these exams. We've got a dedicated FAQs sheet on the website. Again, I just went on to the remote exam session here. Towards the end, there is, under the further support section, you'll see there are the frequently asked questions. You can again click on this, and there's a long list of exhaustive list of questions, some of which we will obviously cover in today's session. I've shown you how and where you can find your system check links and your minimum spec requirement document. Your exam timetable is also given on that same one page. And we will be sending a recording of this session to you after this webinar, just in case you wanted to, go back and revisit any particular areas that you would like. Now, let me just quickly take you to the document bit. Now, this is a step-by-step guide, which was again produced by ACCA, the exam operations team in the UK. This is your sort of guide to help and support you with being able to rebook your remotely invigilated exam. Now, I said the process is going to be slightly different to what it is usually, which means it's got a few extra steps involved. Like I said, this this document will show you every particular step that you need to do. What will be different again, and quite visibly sort of when you log into your exam planner, is this bit here. And let me actually zoom in a little bit on the screen. There's actually this bit here, which you see and it says at home. So ideally, you wouldn't have this option here. You would probably just normally see change location. But now for students that have booked this exam and are eligible to rebook the exams via remotely invigilation, you will be able to see an additional at home option here. You will need to click on this at home and it will bring you to choose an exam option. When you choose an exam, when you select the exam that you wanted to rebook, for example, in this instance, it is the financial management exam, you will have all of these options, but again, those options will be locked. The only option that will be available for you is to click on the home button there. You click on this home button and you click add to your plan on top. You'll see add to your plan on the right hand side, pretty much similar to how you would normally book your exam. Click on confirm your availability and accept the terms and conditions by clicking on the 4 different boxes. You will obviously have to read the different terms and conditions. It's quite important that you spend some time carefully going through the different terms and conditions, and this is a screenshot of how basically it will be looking on your system. When you proceed, you will be taken to a section where you can add your exam, and it will pretty much, again, based on your location. And I would imagine anyone in the Middle East will probably have access to at least three different time zones, and we've split these exams across a window of 12 hours and in 5 different time zones. And these time zones will be offered to students, again, based on where they're based, and then what country of the world they are in. So depending on which part of the world you are in, and again in the Middle East, specifically Kuwait and Oman, you could expect to see at least 2 or 3 different time zones, different windows. Now what you see here, the thing that says CBE, AA, OP, F1, F2, F3, these are not your normal ACC exams. These are basically the various different time zones, and you'll actually have to click through each of these time zones to make sure which one suits you best. I would recommend booking the earliest possible time zone so that you can avoid an additional traffic, as well as you can make sure that you can do these exams in the earliest available hours. So you will actually have to click through each of these time zones and go through some of the details, and you'll be able to see which basically which time zone you can book your exams in. You again will ask to accept, tick a few boxes, terms and conditions, read through them, accept them, click on next, etc. It will then take you to the date calendar, which is something like this, that you see on the screen here. Make sure you are booking your exam for this. You select the date of the actual exam. So it is a good practice would be to have your exam timetable on the side open on another tab, just to make sure that you are 100% sure that you are going to be, for example, if you're running the if you're wanting to book the audit and assurance exam, you'll be sure that the audit and assurance exam will be run on that particular date that you're selecting here. Once you've selected your date, you'll be asked to select your time slot. You select your time slot, all of your details will be, you will be asked to review your booking. Once you've reviewed your booking, accepted, agreed, it will take you to click confirm and finish. That's where you will be able to submit your bookings. You press on finish and your booking will be taken to your payment side. Now once you reach the payment section, your accounts would have automatically been credited for the amounts that you've booked, and you'd be able to see here that your credit will be reflecting in your account. Your balance will already be reflecting, so there'll be no changes. Your remotely invigilated exams are not priced at anything different. They are pretty much the same price as the center-based exams were. All you will have to do is, you see that little sort of box next to which it says I accept the terms and conditions. You click there, you make the payments, you click complete exam entry to finish, and you will receive an email confirmation that will say you've booked for X exam via remote invigilation. So this is pretty much the process. This guide is a step-by-step guide to support you, with being able to sort of book your exams and complete your process. Again, very much important. And remember, you've only got up to 7th of August to book these exams. So please make sure as soon as you receive, the students in Kuwait would have already obviously received this email. So you all can definitely start with this process. Students in Oman will most likely receive this email by the end of today or tomorrow, or you might have possibly even received this email while we are talking. So, keep a watch out for your inbox for an email that comes from ACCA, and, do the necessary system tests and the requirements and all of that, and rebook your exam before the 7th of August. Right, I think with this, I hand over to my colleague Alex, who will be taking you sort of with the next couple of slides.
Yes, please. Thank you, Tahir. And again, thank you for everyone who's sending in the questions. Tahir, if you pop me over onto the, I can see it now, what to expect on the exam day. I'll talk through this in the next section about the resources and support that's available. And we'll also do some ask questions towards the end and address some sort of broader trends throughout the questions that are being asked. If we haven't been able to get your specific question answered, hopefully we'll be able to do that in the next 20 minutes. So it is important to know that there will be no breaks within this exam, including bathroom breaks. Now, this is a check-in process until the conclusion of the exam. So if you do have your exam, you can't get up and leave the room in between the exam. We cannot allow for that. There are some restrictions which will allow you at your desks, and we'll talk through them individually, but you're not allowed scrap paper. Now, that's something that's popped up quite a lot in the question panel, Tahir, that students are really, concerned about the fact that they can't use the paper and pen that they'd get used to if they're doing a paper exam. Now, what I will say is that this is a massive chance to advocate the practice platform, and you should really be going onto your MyACCA account, using the practice platform, get used to doing the questions in the computer-based format, getting used to the highlighters and the scratch pad, because that's all part of your exam technique. You will be filmed throughout the exam, and other people, other third parties will have access to this, but only for the purposes of running the exam or other related post-exam activities. Now, if we just move to the next slide, Tahir, this talks about what you are and aren't allowed at your desk. So we've got two options here. We've got desktop setup and then we've got laptop setup. But I'm actually going to jump straight to the bottom of this and talk about that a little bit in red, because I think this is extremely important. And it's something that we often subconsciously don't always realize, that we have these things on our desk all the time. Now, I know, working in this industry for many years, that these things have just become an extension of us, but make sure that just like you would be doing an exam in an exam center, you don't put this on your desk. It needs to be well out of arm's reach. If you have a desktop setup, you want a clear desk, you only want one monitor, a separate keyboard and a separate mouse. There'll need to be a webcam and a clear glass of water or a small bottle with no label. So something along the lines of this will be allowed. However, you will not be allowed an additional monitor, no additional peripherals, so nothing around the sort of back of you that could be construed as maybe, giving you some form of hints or guidance. Basically, we're just making sure that it's as clear as possible for the remote invigilator. No additional food or drinks, headsets, earphones, earbuds are not allowed, and unfortunately no scrap paper. And there's many similarities if you're using a laptop. The key difference here is that you are allowed to use a laptop. I mean, many of us fold our laptop down and use a separate screen. So I'll just talk through option one first. So this is having a clear desk area, laptop screen with a built-in webcam, very much like what myself and Tahir are using right now. Separate keyboard is optional, as well as a separate mouse, and I would say that is also useful. The calculator, and many of us have been asking about this on the question panel, are we allowed the calculator? Well, just like you would in your paper-based exams or your computer-based exams that you've done at different levels, you are allowed a calculator, but it has to be the ACCA guided calculator. It can't be a calculator that stores information, but you can use and find out what particular calculators you are allowed to use. And if you've used them previously, I would most likely say that they are perfectly fine to be used here. Also, a glass of water and a bottle with no label on. Similarly, for option two, you do need a clear desk area, but you're only allowed one external monitor and the laptop screen must be closed. And so that's, the overview for actually how you want to set up. Now, there is, if you just move to the next slide, Tahir, a really useful video that I will share the link of very shortly. I do apologize, it's the slide after. So I'll just talk through the internet connectivity first, and I'll get onto that video. So what happens if I lose my internet connectivity during the exam? Well, the exam software is very resilient, and it does have built-in resilience. So we are aware, and we can empathize that the internet throughout the region and throughout the world isn't always fantastic. So if you do have a point of failure, the exam will automatically save at certain points. And assuming that there is immediate action taken, so you do get in touch with the remote invigilator, we can restore your connectivity, or once the connectivity is restored, you can resume your exam. However, if you do experience technical issues during the exam, you should immediately contact Pearson VUE and the support team on the number provided, and provide full details of the incident. Pearson VUE will then assist in attempting you to resolve the issue, and this will then allow you to continue with the exam. Now, one thing I will add here is that there will be no additional time added to the back end of the exam if you do experience any internet connectivity issues. So if you could move to the next slide. What happens if I cannot finish my exam due to technical issues? Well, the ultimate answer here is that we will review this on a case-by-case basis. So if the exam is cancelled or stopped prematurely due to any technical issue, refunds will only be considered under exceptional circumstances, under exceptional grounds. Students must ensure it's your responsibility to meet the minimum requirements before you sign up to the remote invigilation exam. This is your decision to sign up to this, and we have clearly explained this in the terms and conditions, and I'll just reiterate that. If you do have any doubts over the technical requirements, make sure you do the testing, ensure that you are able to sit the exam, go on to the Pearson VUE website and run the test, because it would be such a shame if you haven't done that and then you get to the exam and you find out it's not compatible. Students must complete the pre-exam technical checks, run the diagnostic checks before the exam, and ensure that they have a stable internet connection. Moving on. So exam preparation for strategic professional students sitting the CBE at home. Now, I appreciate that this will be the first time for any of you that you will be doing the strategic professional level on a computer-based exam. We had been planning the rollout of this throughout the course of the year, but we have, as Tahir said, and I really liked how he put it, put our foot on the pedal to accelerate this, to ultimately ensure that you students are able to sit these exams, or your students are able to sit these exams, to help with your progression, because the last thing we'd want is to have this option but then not use it, and then students to not carry on with the progression. We've implemented this early, and we will do our utmost to support you and upskill you, along with those who are using learning partners as well. Ty, if you can move to the next slide. This is where I was alluding to the video. So first and foremost, we have applied skills and strategic professional CBE exam resources that are freely available. Now, rather than clicking on there, Tahir, what we'll do is I'll put the links in the chat panel, because I appreciate running a bit short of time. There is the ACCA practice platform that I have been massively advocating in the question and chat panel over the last hour. Get on your My ACCA account, get used to this practice platform, because practice ultimately will help you get used to using a scratchpad, highlighter, and the software for your exams. The video I was talking to here, Managing Your Strategic Professional CBE Workspace Effectively, is a really good 3-minute video, and it pulls out things like only having one window open when you need them at a time, setting up your workplace and screen for each window, and not to cover the toolbars. And it all talks in 3 minutes about how to effectively use and set up your workspace. And the last one is a series of webinars on how to succeed in the strategic professional computer-based exams, which we are hosting, and they have enlisted tutor gurus for each one of the 6 strategic professional exams. I'll send you the link for this. I'll highly stress the need to enroll for these webinars, because they will be extremely insightful. So I believe if we move on to the next section, I think that leads us quite nicely into strategic professional resources. Now here, this is specifically in relation to strategic business leader, and there's an array of resources. So there's videos and webinars available, but they're also available for the other 5 strategic professional level exams. If you just move to the next slide, Tahir, I'll just give an overview. For example, there's examining team guidance, how to approach particular exams. There's also technical articles and things along the lines of professional skills. If you saw earlier, last week we did a webinar and a series on the examiner's reports. You can find all of these for every exam, not just the strategic professional, on our resources website, which I will share with you now. Tahir, I believe that brings me to an end, and we will deal with the questions and answers, and I'll just have a little look through and pass it back over to you to do some sort of closing remarks before we get into the Q&A.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. And again, really, oops, I think something went wrong. Alex, can you confirm, are you able to see my screen and the slides still?
Yes, we can. We're on the Q&A, so the key FAQs slide, and we'll take it from there whenever you're ready, Tahir.
Brilliant. Okay, perfect. Thanks. So just wanting to reiterate a few things that Alex has said, and really wanting to emphasize again here that the idea behind us switching to remotely invigilated exams is to make sure the exams are available to you. And we've got a whole host of resources for our students, to support our students with these moves. Applied skills students are already, have got the benefit there where they're used to doing their exams on computer-based rather than paper-based exams. For strategic professional level students, those of you that are new to doing these exams on a computer, it's not a massive change. It's not changing, it's not going to change your life tremendously. It's just a change in the way you do your exam. Instead of writing your exam on a piece of paper, trust me, you'll sort of thank us, and you'll sort of count your blessings when you come out of the exam, doing it on an actual CB. Some of you might have already done your applied skill exams on computer-based platforms, so it might again not be a massive change. The exams are pretty much going to be very much similar, nothing different from how the applied skills exams, the computer-based exams have been. So it's not a huge change, nothing for you to really sort of be scared of. So hang in. Make sure you use all of these resources and sit for your exam successfully. So Alex, yes, let's get into the Q&As.
So there has been, while I've been sort of looking at the questions, sort of trends throughout them. So I'll just address one or two trends, and then we'll go into the FAQs, Ty. So one of them keeps popping up about the use of paper. Now, I did say just moments ago that you are not allowed paper in your exam. So the answer to that ultimately is that you will need to continue to practice using the scratch pad as well as the practice platform to get used to that way of doing your exams. There will not be an allowance for restroom breaks. That's another trend that I've seen in the questions and answers. There will not be restroom breaks. You are able to go before, but ultimately we cannot allow for students to leave the remote invigilation environment during an exam. Internet speed, Wi-Fi and hotspots is another thing that's popped up quite a lot, here. And I think it's important that we address that this is the responsibility of the students to ensure that their internet speed is at the minimum requirements. Now, we have shared, and we will share as well in the follow-up to this, the minimal technical requirements, not just for internet, but also for your laptops or computers, the amount of space you have on your hard drive. So the technical specifications will be able to be followed up. And just one or two last things, Ty, before we get stuck in, where to sit the exam. Now, ultimately, some students have said, can I sit this in my bedroom? Can I sit this at a learning partner? And the answer is, well, that's quite sort of how long's a piece of string, because it depends on the room itself. One of the key things is that the room needs to be secure. It needs to actually be, clear of any ultimate distractions. So it can't be in an office, for example, where there's open windows and people can see in and you can see out. And it must very much be in a secure environment. So we can't afford for you to have interruptions whereby people can walk in and out, because ultimately that can possibly invalidate your exam. The credit, the last point for all the students who've been asking around this, please ensure you go onto your MyACC account. I can't stress this enough. Review that over the next 24 hours. It is imminent that you'll receive the credit as soon as possible, and then you can go through the process to book your remotely invigilated exam. So that was the ultimate trends that I'm not sure if you've seen any others, but I'm happy to move into the FAQs to sort of direct the last 10 minutes of our webinar and keep going as much as we need to.
Yeah, brilliant, Alex. We can, but just before we move into the FAQs, a couple of points of emphasis here. Again, it's going to be quite important for students. We can understand that not having the scratch paper, scrap paper on your desk might be annoying. You're quite used to it. It used to happen when we used to have the center-based exams. Please understand there is a reason why we don't have that option available when you're doing the exams at home. Because and then again, you need to start practicing. This is an opportunity for you to start practicing. Like Alex said, typically start using the practice platform as well as the constructive response workspace, and start practicing doing your workings and things like that on the scratch pad rather than doing it on that piece of paper. So practice is going to help you get over that habit and have a new habit to form. So you've got a good 4 weeks time, and I would imagine you're probably in your revision phase right now, going into question practice. Start incorporating these changes and you'll be set for your exams.
Yeah, no, that's really good emphasis, that, Tahir. And I think the first question that I'll pass through to you is, if the situation continues to improve in my region, will any exam be rescheduled to be run as an exam at a centre?
Unfortunately not. So once we've made the decision to switch your exams from center-based exams to remotely invigilated exams, or because of the logistics that are involved in there, even if in the week of exam things become absolutely normal and we are 100% COVID free, unfortunately we will not be able to revert back to the center-based exam model. We will have to proceed with the remotely invigilated exam option, at least for the September exam session.
Thank you, Ty. The next one we have already brushed and touched upon, but it's worth emphasising again. Can I sit my remotely invigilated exam at my learning provider or employer premises to get stronger internet connection?
Yes, you can pretty much sit it anywhere, as long as it's quiet. Most important factor, as long as it is secured, which means people don't have access in and out of that room. You can pretty much lock that room and restrict anybody from walking in and interrupting, because if somebody walks into the room and the invigilator are monitoring you, they pick up additional sounds, they see people around on the webcam, they will definitely intervene. They will interrupt your exam, and there are chances you might end up losing, or if not losing, waste precious time because of the intervention. So ideally, as long as it is a secured environment with really solid internet connection, good availability of PC, a proper desk, etc., you can sit for these exams anywhere.
Thank you, Tahir. The next question, can I wear religious apparel such as a face scarf?
Yes, so items that are considered religious apparel, so things like the abaya or things like that, are allowed, following your visual inspection by the invigilator. So if you're a female and if you're wearing a niqab, you will obviously need to take it off in order to prove that you are the person behind the niqab to the invigilator who is sitting across, watching at you, looking at you through the camera. Once the visual inspection is done, you could probably have, as long as it's not concealing anything, or it does not come across as concealing anything that is prohibited to use.
Fantastic.
Invigilators, again, and again, a follow up to that question, and apologies, Alex, is usually sometimes there are on occasions requests, can I have invigilators of the same gender? And again, unfortunately, we won't be able to work that option out for you, because invigilators are assigned on a random basis. So you would not be able to request invigilators of the same gender. But rest assured, this doesn't sort of intervene with your exam process or anything.
Thank you, Tahir, for, I appreciate that's probably a standard follow-up as well. We get asked that, so thank you for expanding there. Technical question, and another one about internet as well. So if there is a technical delay at the start of the exam or during the exam, will I get the time added to the end of my exam? I think I alluded to this earlier, but Tahir, over to you.
Yeah, like you said earlier, Alex, unfortunately, there aren't any provisions. So the timer will continue to be running. And this is why we really strongly emphasize on, and we advise that you make sure that the exam environment and the exam system, the system the way you'll be taking the exam, are meeting all the criteria, the detailed criteria that we've been mentioning to you over the course of these weeks, to ensure that there are no disruptions to your exam. Because if there are any actual disruptions to your exams, you will end up losing some valuable time. Ideally, if there is a technical issue, you've got Pearson VUE on site. You will also be given contact numbers and contact details if you wanted to reach through to Pearson VUE via on the phone. And they'll be able to technically resolve the matter quite quickly. If it takes longer, and if you feel that you've run out of quite a lot of valuable time. You could maybe after the end of your exam submit a performance request under mitigating circumstances. So we could consider when we are doing the processing of your results, if there were any instances, again, these will be judged on a case-by-case basis, depending on all the details that you provided to us.
Thank you, Ty. And I think one of the other questions I've been willing to ask now, I just want to re-emphasize, is can I tether my laptop to my mobile hotspot to run the exam? And here you can talk about the fact that it's probably advisable, if they can, to go ahead and use a LAN cable if possible. So over to you.
Thanks, Alex. And tethering to a mobile hotspot is definitely not allowed, and it's absolutely unrecommended because the quality in the network is very unstable, very unreliable. I think mobile hotspot tethering will not even be accepted by the system. The system will not recognize access via mobile hotspots. There are, I'm aware, certain devices that give the pretty much similar functionality, but the recommendation again for optimal performance is to be able to use a reliable and a stable connection. So either use a LAN wired connection like this or a very strong Wi-Fi connection. So you have no disruptions or minimal disruptions to your exams. Dongles can be used as well, to boost your connection, but you should not have any sort of you should not have a user interface if you wanted to use that particular dongle.
Right, Ty, we've got quite a lot of questions coming into the questions and answers to continuing. If you've seen anything in there, Ty, that you'd like to address, but I think the overall themes have very much been, how can I get in touch as well? Will you follow up with this? And we will be following up with an email with the slides, with the recording, a link to the recording, with the resources that we've discussed as we've gone along. So please rest assured, if anyone's asking how can I watch this back or get more information, that's sort of from my perspective. If you do need to reach out, I've put our contact email, so it's just educationme@accaglobal.com. I've put that in the chat panel. So students, if you are wishing to ask further questions and we can't address or haven't particularly addressed them directly here, please do reach out to us and we'll do our best to get back to you. Just one massive sort of push again. The deadline is the 7th of August. Please make sure you go onto your MyACCA account, continuously try and review to see if you haven't received your credit yet. It should be there in the next 24 hours, and then go through and do the process, check the specification. I personally wish you the utmost success with this. Me and Tahir see this as a good step in the right direction, and certainly a much better option than cancelling the exams again. So I appreciate that it's changed, it's different, and with that becomes a lot of questions, so we'll do our best to answer all of them, but we're really trying to ensure that we can support you as much as possible. And I'll pass back over to Tahir now with any sort of additional remarks.
Thank you, Alex. And I've just, while you were talking, tried to glance through the questions, and I am actually overwhelming amount of questions that have come in, but I can see a recurring theme around what happens if there is an electricity outage, and what happens for all the attendees. And again, apologies if we've not been able to address one or two of your questions, but really everything is pretty much covered within our FAQ documents. And if you look at the FAQ document on our website, you'll have a whole list of questions. So if we've not been able to answer some of your questions, I would strongly recommend going in and looking at the frequently asked questions document, which was on the website under that further resources section. But one key theme that I see from a lot of questions is, what happens if there's an electricity outage? What happens if we lose the internet connection? And again, in that cases, we will kick in the support. So Pearson, you will have a support team on standby, which will try and help you with anything which is pretty much fixable and be within their control. For anything that is beyond their control, unfortunately we won't be able to do anything. If it's an issue that has a minimal disruption to your exam, then your exams will automatically, like we said earlier and Alex mentioned, the systems are resilient, they'll save your exams and you'll be able to resume. If it takes longer than an expected time, then unfortunately you'll probably end up losing that exam, and you'll have to submit a mitigating circumstance request, which will be sort of assessed on a case-by-case basis. Couple of students have said can we do a test exam before doing the actual exam? And yes, for those students, when you do the system test, you know, when I was taking you through the thing earlier, and when, you know, where I couldn't go any further, when you would have downloaded that software and when you'd have run the software, it would do a, you know, a test exam, not a full-blown exam, but just a sample with 1 or 2 questions on it, where, you know, you can go next, and all of that. So you'll get a hint of, you know, what to expect. Basically, it locks your screen. All you would be able to see is just the exam platform and nothing else on your screen. Alex, have you seen any other common questions that maybe we could perhaps quickly pick up in the next? I'm just conscious of time here.
Yeah, no, the themes have very much been around, you know, connectivity, internet, paper, the resources, electricity, and cutouts. So you've really picked up on some key ones there, Tahir. There is a, you know, a plethora of questions coming in specifics around resources. So do go on the chat function now while you are here and follow the links, use the links, save them in your Internet Explorer or internet browser, and make sure you go and use the practice platform. You know, plan and do lots of practice, get your exam strategy laid out and practice your approach, because ultimately that will make for a perfect exam when it comes to the September exam sitting. I'll pass back over to you, Tahir, for any closing remarks. And if anybody does have any additional questions, please just get in touch with the internet, with the email provided.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks. And really just wanting to close off by saying, this isn't a huge change. This is something that was coming in the future. You know, we're progressing towards a very technological advanced future. There's a lot of element around flexibility. This was something that ACCA as an organization, you know, a forward-thinking global professional body, was considering, you know, in terms of being able to give that additional piece of flexibility to our students in the near future. The pandemic just made us accelerate this option, really, and this is the future of the, you know, exam sitting, and this is how students in probably the next couple of years will probably be doing their exams. So there's nothing really to worry about remotely invigilated exams. Be confident, you know, practice, stay on track, you know, keep preparing for your exam. Rebook your exams. Remember the 7th of August cutoff. It is absolutely crucial. You know, you are able to rebook your exam in time before the cutoff, because if you don't do that, then you will lose the opportunity to sit these exams in September exam session. Keep moving on, you know, keep practicing like Alex said, and you will inshallah be successful with this exam as well. So take care. We are here to support, you know, you with everything. We will inshallah be running a few more sessions to sort of help you familiarize with the CV practice platform and various other resources that can help you prepare better for these exams. So, you know, keep tuned in, keep checking your inbox regularly, keep following us on our social channels for any regular updates, and we will inshallah look forward to seeing you on the next sessions. Until then, don't panic, be confident, and take care. Keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.